We re-elect George W.
Wait. The election's over? All right. Thanks for letting me know.
It's almost there.
I think Fox News, of all our subsidiaries, had the best increase in profits.
What makes Murdoch particularly dangerous is that he's foremost a politician. And he will use his immense media power to shape the content, especially the news, that furthers his interests and those of his allies, including the conservative Republican community. After all, Fox News is nothing more than a 24/7 political ad for the GOP.
At MSNBC, I worked as a senior producer on the Phil Donahue primetime show. From the beginning, they were saying to us, we have to be balanced, giving them instructions not to be too confrontational, don't be too partisan, don't be too angry. Now, by the end of our tenure, balance wasn't enough. And this is the Fox effect. They mandated that anytime if we had two left-wing guests, we had to have 3 right-wing guests. If we had 1 anti-war guest, we had to have 2 pro-war guests. And that's how we ended the show. So we're like trying to outfox Fox. You cannot outfox Fox. But MSNBC and the others have tried. CNBC has tried to outfox Fox. Since the corporate structures, corporate ownership of the other channels did not allow anyone to counter-program against Fox, in television, the inclination is imitation.
I think the standard right now is Fox, and I want to be as interesting and as edgy as you guys are.
It's influencing its competitors. That's why, MSNBC hired Joe Scarborough. That's why CNN in recent weeks has taken to reporting pretty much anything the Bush White House tells it to report. There is a sense now that there is money in the flag, and Fox knows that, and its competitors know that Fox is onto something.
Today, news business is geared toward entertainment. It's geared toward, in some cases, propaganda. It's geared toward, ultimately, the bottom line of a big corporation that owns the station, that owns the news operation.
It's called the news business for a reason. It is news, but it's a business.
They don't like to spend money doing serious stories. They like to do cheap, easy stories that will get a gut reaction.
The thing I think that distresses me more than anything else is that a lot of the news content is not coming straight out of the newsrooms, particularly in television, but out of the promotion department.
It's expensive to spend time exploring the issues. It's cheap, and everything now is a question of money.
If you go to the National Association of Black Journalists, or you go to the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, you talk to Asian American journalists who are on air, you talk to Native American journalists, you're seeing a diminution in the number of journalists that are locally based. Because in order to save money and in order to get economies of scale and scope, a lot of the broadcasters are shrinking their employee pool, and they're shrinking them in the news sectors of their stations. So a lot of the young, vibrant people who are getting experience as on-air talent in small towns are seeing those opportunities increasingly diminish.
When you let a small number of companies have this much concentrated power, they will always abuse it. It's simply unacceptable in a free society. And if you don't change the system, we can be having this conversation for the next 50 years. We'll be talking about Rupert Murdoch III.
Just as healthcare and the economy and the environment are political issues that people are familiar with, corporate control over the media is also a major political issue.
When you have one network that is so powerful and so intent upon warping the dialogue, it limits that discourse. It actually influences it to be a narrower discourse. And that's what I think citizens ought to be up in arms about. We can't accept this anymore. If we do accept it, we are handing on to our children and our grandchildren a lesser democracy than we inherited. And that's the one thing we don't have a right to do.
It's ironic that it's been, 30 years since Paddy Chayefsky wrote Network. But I really believe that those prophetic words that were spoken by Peter Finch when he finally got out of the chair and said, "It's time. Go to the window, shake your fist and say, I'm mad as hell. I'm not gonna take it anymore." I think those are resonant words today. I think people are genuinely upset.
Get off your rear end and become an activist. And if you see things that are biased, complain to the outlet and say you won't be watching it anymore.
Content has to change. Power has to shift. And I think the only way we can shift power is the only way we've ever been able to shift power, by directly confronting those who hold it and taking it back.
Policies have been made behind closed doors by very powerful special interests without any public involvement or participation. And what we've learned in the last few years is when the public gets aware of this and they start organizing, we can change these policies and we can make a system that actually responds to the needs of the people of this country.
America's digital destiny is hanging in the balance now. With the right activism, public outcry, we can shape a media environment so that in every community, there are channels that actually serve the public interest.
If you are a citizen at home right now, when you turn on talk radio, all you hear is one right-wing nut or another right-wing nut. Why don't you go to the radio station and say, I'm sick and tired of this. There are progressive voices out there. We want a balance.
If a Fox TV station in your town is broadcasting reports that you know to be inaccurate, that you know to be warping the news, you as citizens have power. Groups like Code Pink and others have actually demonstrated outside television stations and have made noise about it. You need to basically play the Paul Revere role to kind of ride out into the night alerting people that there's something bad going on here and something needs to be done about it.
Here's what I'd love to have happen. Family from Nebraska goes to Washington for the family vacation. We're going to visit the Air and Space Museum, we're going to visit the mall, we're going to visit the Vietnam Memorial, and we're going to visit the FCC to see a commissioner or two to tell them about what we care about. When that happens, you might start to see a little more attention. But you know, it ain't going to happen if you don't try it.
We can actually win here. The whole strength of the system has been based on people being apathetic and not thinking they could do anything about it. As soon as we rise up, it collapses like a house of cards. That's the extraordinary development of the last 2 years.
It is not an issue of the right or the left. It is a populist issue about people finally saying it's their democracy and they aren't going to let 5 companies control the airways for corporate convenience at the expense of public necessity.